Before we talk about the most sophisticated cyber weapon ever built, we need to talk about the humble beginnings of all of this. We need to talk about the first computer virus. It's 1971. The internet doesn't exist yet. Not really. There's ARPANET, a small experimental network connecting a handful of universities and research labs across the United States, and a programmer named Bob Thomas, working at a company called BBN Technologies, writes a little program. Not to cause damage, not to steal anything, just to see if he could make a program that moved on its own, that copied itself from machine to machine across the network. He called it Creeper. All it did was print a message on the terminals it infected. I'm the Creeper. Catch me if you can. That's it. The world's first self-replicating program. It didn't destroy anything. It was almost charming. Then another programmer, Ray Tomlinson, the same guy who invented the email, wrote a second program to chase it down and delete it. He called it the Reaper, the world's first antivirus. And without knowing it, those two men had invented a war that would never end. Because once you understand that code can move, that a program can replicate itself, spread itself, carry a payload from machine to machine without anyone touching it, you start to understand that software isn't just a tool anymore. It's a weapon, it's a living thing, and like all living things, it can evolve. So let's watch it evolve. Through the 70s and 80s, viruses were mostly curiosity. They spread on floppy disks. You'd borrow a disk from a friend, pop it into your Apple II or your IBM PC, and if that disk happened to be carrying something, now your machine was carrying it too. The elk cloner virus in 1982 was the first to spread in the wild this way. Written by a 15-year-old named Rich Skrenta as a prank on his friends. It would infect your boot sector, and every 15th time you'd start your computer, it would display a little poem he wrote. Harmless, annoying, 15 years old. The brain virus in 1986 was the first IBM PC virus ever documented. Two brothers in Pakistan wrote it, Basis and Amjad Farud Alvi, to protect their medical software from piracy. It would infect any pirated copy and replace the disk's label with their name, address, and phone number. People actually called them from around the world. They answered. These are almost sweet stories that early virus writers were hackers in the original sense of the word, curious peoples poking at a system to see what would happen. And then the 90s happened. The internet exploded. Suddenly every machine was connected to every other machine, and suddenly viruses had a highway. The I love you worm in 2000, an email carries in your inbox with the subject line, I love you, and the attachment is labeled loveletterforyou.txt. You open it, and within 10 days, it has infected over 50 million computers worldwide, caused somewhere between $5 and $10 billion in damages, and taken down the email systems of the Pentagon, the CIA, and the British Parliament, all because a 24-year-old student in the Philippines wanted to steal passwords to get free internet access. The scale of the damages that a single person with a laptop could cause had changed permanently. Then came the worms. Code Red in 2001 infected 360,000 machines in 14 hours. The SQL Slammer in 2003, so fast it doubled in every 8.5 seconds and took down South Korea's internet for hours. Blaster in 2003 as well infected millions of Windows machines and was programmed to launch a denial of service attack against Microsoft's own servers. And every year the tools got more sophisticated. Every year, the damage got worse. Every year, the security industry scrambled to keep up. But here's the thing that all of these had in common. Creeper, I Love You, Code Red, all of them. They were written by individuals, bored teenagers, thrill-seeking hackers, the occasional criminal looking for credit card numbers. They were sloppy, they spread wildly, infected things that weren't supposed to, and crashed system randomly. Nobody had asked the most dangerous possible question. What if a nation-state built one? What if one of the most sophisticated intelligence agencies in the world, agencies with billion-dollar budgets, teams of the best engineers on Earth, and years to plan, What if they sat down and said, we are going to build a virus. We're not going to use it to steal. We're not going to use it to crash. We're not going to use it to cause chaos. To destroy something specific. Something physical. Something that, if it worked, would change the balance of the power in the Middle East. The question was asked sometime around 2005 or 6, the exact date is still classified, somewhere in the intelligence apparatus of the United States and Israel. The answer began to take shape. The target was Iran's nuclear program, specifically a uranium enrichment facility buried underground in a city called Natanz. Iran had secretly been enriching uranium for years, using it for civilian nuclear power, but intelligence agencies believed that they were working towards a bomb. Diplomacy was going nowhere. A military strike would be an act of war, destabilizing the entire region, killing people, potentially sparking something much larger. So someone asked, what if we broke it without touching it? What if we sent something in? Now, to understand what they built, you need to understand what was happening inside Natanz. This facility was running centrifuges, machines that spin uranium gas at tremendous speed to separate out the enriched uranium you need for a weapon. The centrifuges in Iran they were using were called IR-1s. They were connected to industrial control systems, computers that managed the physical operations of the machines. Those control systems ran on a software made by a German company called Siemens. The specific software was called Siemens Step 7. Natanz was air-gapped. That means it was not connected to the internet at all. Physically isolated, no outside network access. The assumption was that no malware could get in because nothing from the outside world could reach the machines. The engineers who built Stuxnet, and we still don't know all their names, the United States and Israel have never officially confirmed the program, which was reportedly called Operation Olympic Games. Those engineers decided the air gap problem was something they could solve. Their solution was a USB drive. You infect enough machines in the outside world, specifically machines belonging to companies that do business with Natanz, contractors, suppliers, engineers who work there, and eventually, someone is going to carry an infected drive inside the facility. You don't need to break through a wall or have to hack into their systems. You just wait for someone to open the door. This is already a sophisticated operation. But what Stuxnet actually did once it got inside is where the story becomes genuinely extraordinary. Most malware, once it gets into a machine, does something obvious. It steals files. It encrypts your hard drive. It crashes your system. You know something is wrong because something goes wrong. Stuxnet did none of that. Once it was on a machine, it sat there and watched. It was looking for one specific thing. A machine running Siemens Step 7 software connected to a specific model of Siemens programmable logic controller, the hardware that actually talked to the centrifuges. If it didn't find that exact configuration, it did absolutely nothing. It just waited. It spread quietly to new machines, kept looking, and kept waiting. If you were a technician at a completely unrelated company and Stuxnet ended up on your laptop, nothing would happen. You'd never know it was there. It was hiding. But the moment it found what it was looking for, the moment it identified that it was connected to the Natanz centrifuge control systems, it activated. And what it did next is one of the most devious things ever written in code. It didn't crash the centrifuges. It didn't trigger alarms. It didn't do anything the operators could see. Instead, it intercepted the signals going to the centrifuges and fed the operators a lie. The centrifuges were being told by Stuxnet to spin at the wrong speeds, sometimes too fast, sometimes with sudden pressure changes, stresses that would cause machines to tear themselves apart from the inside. While this was happening, the monitoring systems, everything that the engineers could see on their screens, was being fed a false recording of normal operation. Everything looks fine, all system normal. Nothing to see here. The centrifuges were destroying themselves, and the engineers watching the readouts had no idea. Over months, some estimates say over a year, somewhere between 1 and 2,000 centrifuges and Natanz were damaged or destroyed. Iran's engineers were baffled. Machines were failing at unprecedented rates. They replaced them, they ran diagnostics, they checked everything they could. The monitoring system said nothing was wrong. They blamed the centrifuge design. They blamed their own engineers. Some were reportedly fired. All while Stuxnet sat quietly in the background, watching, lying, destroying. When it was finally discovered in 2010 by a small Belarusian security company called Virus Blockada, who noticed it on a client's computer in Iran, the global cybersecurity went silent for a long time. They had never seen anything like it. Stuxnet used not one, not two, but 4 zero-day exploits. A zero-day is a vulnerability in the software that the software's creator doesn't know about yet. A hole in a fence that nobody knows is a hole. Finding even 1 zero-day is a major discovery in the security world. Hackers trade them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nation-states stockpile them like weapons. Stuxnet burned through 4 of them like it was nothing. It was the first known piece of malware to ever cross from the digital world into the physical world and cause physical, actual destruction. Every virus before it lived in the realm of data. It corrupted files, crashed systems, stole information. It couldn't hurt you in the physical sense. Stuxnet destroyed machines. It made metal tear apart. It sent back Iran's nuclear program by somewhere between 2 and 10 years, depending who you asked. And then, this is the part that should make you pause. It escaped. It was designed to spread only to a few target systems, to lie dormant, to never be noticed. But software is hard, and once it's in the wild, it's in the wild. Stuxnet spread to computers in India, Indonesia, Azerbaijan, and the United States. Security researchers around the world found it, pulled it apart, published their findings. The code itself, one of the most significant offensive cyber tools ever built, became public. It became something that anyone could study, could learn from it, could modify. The weapon was loose. And this is where we land, on the thing that makes this story better than the history of it. Before Stuxnet, there was an implicit assumption in the international conflict, an invisible line no one had crossed. Cyber espionage existed. Propaganda existed, but you did not use code to reach into another country's infrastructure and make physical things break. That line was there, even if no one had formally drawn it. Stuxnet crossed that line, and once it was crossed, it was gone forever. Because every nation watching this, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran itself, took notes. The message was clear. This is possible. This is real. This is what the future of warfare looks like. Iran retaliated. In 2012, a piece of malware called Shamoon tore through the network of Saudi Aramco, the Saudi Arabian oil company, and destroyed the data on roughly 35,000 computers in a single afternoon, replacing every file with an image of a burning American flag. They nearly had to replace the hard drives one by one. Nobody dropped a bomb, nobody fired a missile, and one of the world's largest oil companies almost ceased to function. We take that for granted now that the infrastructure around us, power grids, water treatment plants, hospital pipelines, all of it runs software. It is connected. All of it has vulnerabilities. Stuxnet was a demonstration, not just of American and Israeli ingenuity, not just of how devastatingly effective a well-crafted cyber weapon can be. It was a demonstration that the next great wars might not be fought with soldiers on a battlefield. They might be fought with code, silently, invisibly, by engineers in offices writing weapons that no one can see coming, against targets they don't know have been hit until the machines start falling apart. Bob Thomas wrote Creeper in 1971, just to watch his little boy move. Look how far it's come.